Hello and welcome to Montecito After Sunset. Today we are breaking down episode 6 of this awesome new audio soap opera, Who is the Boss? I'm Christy, and joining me today to break it all down is the executive story editor of Montecito, Andrew Pemberton Fowler.
Hi,
Hey, Andrew.
everyone.
Welcome. And we also have the creator of Montecito and executive producer, Grant Rudder. Hi, Grant.
Hello, Christy. Hello, Andrew.
We are really getting into Montecito now, guys. It's been several weeks since we sat down and talked about the first amazing premiere episode of the show, and now we are deep in this storyline. With this episode, we're starting to better understand JJ and Bethany Gina's relationship, but I think the understanding that I'm really getting from it is that it's complicated, right? They're just as bad as any couple. Is that because Bethany Gina and JJ themselves are still feeling it out?
Well, I think with Bethany, Gina, and JJ, you have two people who are as self-involved as each other. So a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of resentment, which stems from their own childhoods. And, that famous quote, I don't know who said it, but it's true. You have siblings, but you're all raised in different households. Everyone has a very different opinion. So JJ thinks that he deserves to be the CEO because their father said so. But Bethany Gina says, well, I have the qualifications. I went to the right schools. You were just born with, male anatomy. How is that fair? So you have that real push and pull between them. But he is a CEO, so he has to be in Santa Barbara and Montecito. So she does go to New York. She does live her life in a way that I think he resents. So, there's a lot of tension between them. And we can't always pull everything out of that relationship in every single scene. But I think like any good sibling relationship, there's always something bubbling right under the surface that I think really comes to the fore in this episode.
Yeah, and there's a lot of distance between them. We hear that in the episode where JJ is walking down the steps. You imagine this big house, a lot of space. They're in two different wings of the house. And it's just kind of an example of their relationship, the distance between them. And Bethany Gina's a workhorse, and that's all she wants to do apparently on a Friday night. And then JJ's ready to go to the bar. So it just shows again, like the juxtaposition of this sibling dynamic.
And it's also interesting because in a way, Bethany Gina, I think even to the audience, is trying to prove herself. And JJ's like, well, I don't prove myself. I'm already CEO, like whatever. And the board just gave me another vote of confidence. So whatever, I have staff, I don't care. So you can also see that as well.
Yeah, but I did kind of go, oh yeah, they do work too, not just cause drama in this episode. And we learn about the Santa Barbara Wharf Revitalization project. That's a mouthful. That's introduced in this one, which kind of goes along the lines of the families being in real estate development. That's a through line of the show. But really, the work storylines, there's the drama, and then there's romance and love too. Can I predict that maybe Gio will somehow get involved in the Santa Barbara Wharf Revitalization? Is this where our storylines are going to intertwine?
I think you're onto something. I love the revitalization. I love that we caught the actors up with that one too. True mouthful for the actors.
But it was also fun because I don't work in real estate, neither does Grant.
Right.
So I Googled a Santa Barbara project, and I was like, well, Grant, here's the 800-page document. So we just kind of pulled terms out of that. Just so it would be real.
There's a real one out there, a real document that was used years ago, I think in the 80s for the said wharf in Santa Barbara. So we did pull out some things from it. Well, why not? Reference material.
Because again, like we talked about before, we wanted this to live in the real world. We wanted it, if we have that one real estate fan who's listening, to say, oh yeah, that is something we would consider in a wharf project, just so. And it also, I think a lot of times in soap opera, we have characters who exist. They just kind of show up places, they go, they don't really have any sense of place in the world. But I think what Montecito does really well is people have jobs, people have homes, people go places, they see each other, they're going in and out of each other's stories. And I think that is really fun to hear for our audience. It was actually really fun to write.
And then in the beginning of episode 3, we saw Deacon and JJ talk about proposals And, JJ reminded Deacon that they're the big dogs. So now we've kind of set that, not rivalry, but, this business competition. And now we're going to see how both these companies are vying for this big contract. And they both kind of have their own stakes. Deacon's stakes are more personal and JJ's are more proving himself and being a big move for the company.
Well, in kind of contrast to these big money moves that are happening, we also get this really intimate conversations between Gio and Deacon in this episode. And, I mentioned last week that I'm so rooting for these two. And this episode kind of broke my heart a little bit with what's kind of transpiring between the two of them. There were so many sounds and the dialogue was so good that I was just so into it. There must have been a lot of thought put into those scenes in particular. Right, Andrew? What were those thoughts?
Oh, goodness. Well, again, it starts with an outline, the outline breakdown, whatever you want to call it. So Grant wrote that, we went over it, we refined it. And then when it was time to write the script, I remember distinctly Gio is nervous about finding clothes. So, we kind of, I think I took it out at one point. Grant was like, put it back. And I was like, okay. And at the end of the day, a scene like that, I think is very important in a soap opera because it shows the evolution of characters, but it also shows how you can want the same thing, but for whatever reason, you can't express it. You can't have it. I know I mentioned this before, but soap operas are all about your hopes, your dreams, your fears, your anxieties, your desires. And I think all of that really comes out between Deacon and Gio. I think it is a stellar scene.
Yeah. And it's really not about the clothes. It's really him again. Now it's his turn to be fidgety and try to find something to do and busy himself. And it's really about he knows he has to have this conversation and they're back from dinner and it's quiet and he doesn't want to be the first one to say it. He's trying to find a way, almost as an excuse to kind of say, this isn't really working for me. But, Deacon's desperate to hang on through both of those long scenes that they share. And he really lays it all out. I don't think there was anything else we could write, short of groveling for Deacon at this point. I mean, he really, really did, just said everything. And even at that, Gio has to move on. And I remember we wrapped recording our last take and I was like, damn, I'm really on Team Deacon this time. And Mark said, well, Mark plays Gio, said, yeah, me too. But, we've got other background forces that are influencing this. I don't want to call it a breakup because they were never together, as Gio said, but this separation.
Right. And I also love that when Gio starts behaving in this way, Deacon instantly knows that Mina got to him. He knows what she's like. And I just love how she is still present in that scene, even though she isn't in the room with them.
And it was important at the same time that these two men have a conversation with each other as humans where it wasn't Mina in every line. I really wanted it to be about their dynamic and their relationship. Obviously, the undercurrent is that he's married to her and she's now got this playing the Marcos Medici card on Gio. But I really wanted it to be about their relationship because that's what originated their dynamic and they were together before Mina came into the picture. So looking at that.
Yeah.
There was so much emotion in those scenes. And then we, by contrast, have our scenes with Mina and Bethany Gina that are just so much fun, for lack of a better word, just to kind of hear their dynamic and to try to guess what's going to happen next between the two of them. But it really helps to balance out the episode. Was that a conscious effort to give us a little bit of everything each episode?
I would say definitely yes. The scenes, especially after we edited them, they were quite heavy. And, we have the music that plays, and I believe it was Tori Wolf that was the singer of that song.
It was
and
a very powerful moment playing the song.
Yeah. So you have to balance it out. The scene came across funnier than I intended it to. The intention of the scene was to have these two people under the same roof, classic soap opera, a feud, they're living in the same mansion. They can't stand the sight of each other. You can just imagine Mina reaching over Bethany Gina, trying to go through the drawer to find a stapler. But Mina really laid it on thick. She knows now that she can get Bethany Gina riled up, and she leaned in all the way till it was almost gross.
Well, despite her best efforts, it doesn't sound like Gio will be leaving Montecito anytime soon. How about a tease for next episode, guys? I can't wait.
My tease for episode 7 is that there is an incredible scene between Vincent Arizari and Crystal Chappelle, Bradley and Helena. And we finally see them when everyone's away and it's just them as a couple. And we learn that there's some tension there. It escalates. And I just think it's a really great scene for them. The performances are fantastic, but it was really important to see how Deacon and Mina, their relationship with Diego, how that informs their marriage and what it does to them as a couple. And we meet Diego too. Diego comes in as well.
And I love writing teenagers like Diego. I don't know why. It always
Good
tickles
things
me
I don't.
to write characters like that. But we see a lot of Diego. We see different sides of a lot of people we think we know. And I think that's really important just by virtue of Diego being there. Diego, as a child, sees Deacon in a very different light than everyone else. He sees his mother in a very different light. Right. And that is very, very important in a soap opera to make even your villains, whoever your villain may be, multidimensional. One of the things I'll never forget is I was reading a book about the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And
I read that one. Mary and Rhoda, Rhoda and Mary,
Yeah, and they had the character of Rhoda in the pilot. And, the character worked, but they were like, we don't know. Maybe the audience won't like her. So they had Cloris Leachman's character's daughter be like, I like her. She's nice. And that was it. And they were like, okay, now that a child likes her, the audience is now on her side. So kind of with Diego and with kids and teenagers on soaps, getting their point of view can turn a bad character into a good one because they see things that adult can't see because of their own prejudice. So
it's still somebody's mom.
It is. And, no matter how bad a mother is, a son will always defend her.
Oh, good tease, guys. Well, everybody watching, if you have questions for Grant, Andrew, or any of the cast members who may be joining us on future episodes of The After Show, please leave your questions in the comments on YouTube or visit our Facebook page for Montecito and leave your questions there. We would love to connect with you. And don't forget to subscribe to Montecito on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time for more Montecito After Sunset.